Hello, Math Studies students, and welcome to another online lesson. Today's lesson will be a mini lesson specifically talking about the following vocab words: discrete, continuous, and categorical variables. We will know we are successful when we are able to identify the type of variable in a problem and explain how we know. So our terms and notation for today. To start with, we have categorical variables. Categorical variables describe a particular quality or characteristic. These are describing words. An example, well, I guess first we should talk about variables. What's a variable? In math class, we often use variables like x or a or y or things like that. But what do they represent? They represent an unknown. They represent something that can change based on other constraints. Usually an algebra problem only has one solution, but we know when we studied quadratics, we could have positive or negative solutions sometimes when we'd solve, or all the way back in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 when we had inequalities. It could be a whole list of things that are defined. Well, that's what we're doing here. We're basically giving a category, and then there's different things that can vary. They can change. So a categorical is a category. They have the same root word, category there, and we could pick any number of categories. For example, I could talk about the color of cars in the Reagan parking lot. I'll write that down. The color of cars in the Reagan parking lot. And what sorts of answers could I have for that? Well, I could have gray. I could have tan. I could have silver. I could have blue. I could have red. I could have black. I could have white. Maybe there's some that wouldn't apply. Maybe there's no chartreuse cars in the parking lot or something like that. But we'd have a list of different words that describe, again, this variable. The variable is the thing that can change. Depending on which car I'm looking at, I might have a different color. Certainly some can be the same, and I could have, quantities that were the same. But we have something that's going to vary, and those are, again, different colors. I could do other things that are categories like the style of clothing someone's wearing, like different types of pants. We could have, long pants. We could have short pants. We could have blue jeans. We could have capris, skirts, all sorts of different things that we're wearing on our legs. Again, a categorical variable. What you'll notice is absent from categorical variables are numbers, and that brings us to quantitative variables. So quantitative variables are those which have numbers, and we have two main kinds in statistics. The first is discrete. Anything that you can get through a discrete, anything that you can get by counting is discrete. For example, I could go back to the car parking lot, but now if I said the number of cars in a parking lot, the number of cars in the lot, that could change, again, based on time. Maybe I'm taking different counts versus first thing in the morning versus afternoon versus evening, and I just different numbers. And so I count all the cars. Anything I can get by counting, like the number of cars in the parking lot, like the number of students in room 309, like the number of advanced grades I got last semester. These are all answers that I would actually count up how many I got. And if I count them up and it has a number for an answer, that is discrete. And discrete means that it's not a running total, meaning like a stopwatch or a ruler or something. You jump from one whole number to the next whole number. As students come into the room, I could count 1, then 2, then 3. There's no way to get 3.5. Now, there's occasional exceptions to the rule, but 99% of the time, you're just talking about counting and whole numbers when it comes to discrete. And that leaves us with our last type of quantitative variable, which is continuous variables. These are things that are the result of measuring. Now, anything that you can measure, we're talking length here, we're talking height here, we're talking distance, but we're also talking weight, we're talking temperature, volume, rainfall, any kind of measurement. So this could, examples of this could be the time it took a student to finish the cross-country race. One person would cross the finish line, and I would have a number, again, that's like 10 minutes, 33 seconds, 15 or something like that. And then someone else crosses, and they have a different time. It's not all whole numbers. It's a measurement in time. Or I could say the height of students in my second block math studies class. and I could measure all the different heights. Now, if I just say 6'2", I've sort of turned it into a bit of a quantitative because I've rounded to the nearest inch. But remember, measurements can be much more exact than that. And so that would be, again, an example of continuous. The amount of rainfall, I could put a bucket out every time it rains and then measure, the volume that we had over that cubic foot or something like that. So again, discrete is all about counting, whole numbers, things like that. Continuous is all about measured data. You're more likely to end up with decimals and things like that. And then categorical does not have numbers. And sometimes, you can have very similar ones, like my two examples, both talking about cars in the parking lot, but one was a characteristic, the color, and another one was the number, the actual amount. And that's how we changed from a categorical variable to a discrete variable. That's what I've got for you today. So we will look at some examples in class next time after our test on probability laws. But in the meantime, we've got page 160, number 1 and 2, and we will see you next time.